Surely by now you've heard millennials are having less sex. So, as a countermeasure, we're out here swiping like maniacs on 4 different apps, worrying about whether the jokes in our bios comes off as funny or dickish. But what if all it takes to get laid more is to embrace democratic socialism? That could very well be the case, at least. According to Kristen Godsey, professor of Russian and East European Studies at the University of Pennsylvania, who wrote a book called Why Women Have Better Sex Under Socialism. In it, Godsey demonstrates how, historically, women have reported greater sexual satisfaction under democratic, socialist, and even communist governments, and a society that's less time-pressed, that's less economically precarious, where people don't see relationships as potentially adversarial, where people don't think you're taking advantage of me or you're just with me for my money. People, and men in particular, are going to be happier in relationships, partially because the women that are with them because they like them, not because they enable them to afford rent. Said socialism, it would follow that sex should be better too. Intrigued, I spoke with Godsey to learn a little more about her theory and ask her about the specific policies she thinks would make the biggest impact. GQ, help me define our terms. What is socialism? Godsey, in the book I very clearly define state socialism versus what I call democratic socialism. State socialism is generally what we think of when we think of 20th century socialism in Eastern Europe, like the Bolsheviks in the Soviet Union, who came to power, and Eastern Bloc countries that became socialist after 1945. So in Eastern Europe, socialism really looks like state-owned means of production and planned economy and a one-party state. Democratic socialism is more like the countries of Scandinavia, so Norway, Sweden, Iceland, Finland, and Denmark. There's a big spectrum there in Norway. For example, about 30% of employment is public employment, which means the Norwegian government controls a lot more of the economy than somewhere like Sweden, where there are more private markets and a lot of taxation, so the word socialism is kind of slippery. Is sex better for women under both systems, or is it better in one over the other? Yes, in both places, but obviously women fare a lot better in a democratic socialist society because you have rights and freedoms. You can travel, you have freedom of the press, you have freedom of religion. All those political rights are maintained, while you still have governmental regulation of the economy. In state socialism, obviously, you have a lot of negative things like central planning, travel restrictions, consumer shortages, secret police, but you also have a state commitment to women's equality, and you have a state focus on sexual education and on guaranteeing of women's reproductive rights, with some notable exceptions like Romania and Albania and the Soviet Union under Stalin.